like it's an open source library for querying and manipulating of the data. And what does it perform? Like it performs query, mutation, and subscription, out of which right now in Salesforce like query is supported. And its benefits like about efficient data retrieval, performance, strongly typed, and its validation. And how it comes to, when it comes to writing syntax, it's more of a developer experience, right? And when it was available to the org in during summer 22, beta version is released, and winter 23 it was generally available. Sorry. Okay. What are basically the GraphQL queries? It's kind of a query language where we request what type of data that we need, and we specify in a format that it should return, right? If you take this example of select ID name from account, limit to 20, limit to 10, the similar SQL query is translated into a GraphQL query will look like this. Account, which is limit to 10, and we are querying the fields ID and name. And the format that it which return is basically the structure. It contains a few elements for Salesforce. One is node, edge, and UI API. So all the queries which we do in GraphQL, which is that this is specifically for the UI API, and it obeys all the FLS or user user level security or the field level security. And when it comes to the result or the output, what we saw was each node, which is translated into a single record, and all the nodes are wrapped by edges, which is kind of a wrapper which contains a list of records. And it also includes some of the extra or additional information such as cursor and the page, a total number of record counts. The cursor is helpful because when we when we have the pagination, so that will easily help us to navigate to a certain point, from a certain point. So now let's look into an example of an account query that we were doing in our last class. So here we have to import two variables from Lightning UI GraphQL API. One is GQL and one is GraphQL. Okay. These two are where GQL is used to form the query, and GraphQL is basically an wire adapter for all the GraphQL that we perform, right? So whatever the request or the query that we write, it will be routed through GraphQL. So if we take the example of what we saw, the select ID from ID command name from account, a similar query is translated into GraphQL will look like this. So while writing this one, as you can see, query, and we write the name of the query or the method, query method, and we say it is from the UI API and record query object. And in this case, we are querying account records, which are returning a wrapper of records. Each record, which is a node, which contains following fields: ID, name, type, let's say billing address, last modified by, which is a relationship, right? Last modified by user or ID name. So what we need to look into few things here is, so these are the primitive data types like string or text or ID data types, right? For primitive data types, we write it like directly saying that, okay, this is the field. But for the compound fields, let's say take example of a billing address. We have billing city, billing country, like that, like all the other compound fields, we wrap it inside the billing address fields so that the returned value or the returned result will also be in the same format. I'll display this JSON as well. And this is not a polymorphic field, but there is one more polymorphic field if you consider what ID and who ID on task, right? So that will be displayed in a different, queried in a different way. And this is we are querying a relationship or the parent relationship, right? In an account or all the audit fields, right? Let's say consider of submitted by or last modified by. So those are related to the user records. Hence, we are navigating to a parent record, which is in the relationship. So which is instead of we writing directly like last modified by ID, in GraphQL it is translated like this, last modified by of a JSON object. In that, I need a name, ID and the name. So which will give you the user details. Likewise, you can pass email as well. Any other fields of a user object, which is translated into the query syntax. Okay. This is how like a plain, or we've not added any filter, we've not added any what do you say, order by clause, anything, pagination, and nothing. It is a very plain text. Plain SQL query is translated into the GraphQL query. In this query, any questions or doubts before proceeding next? Okay,
I think it's clear.
it's okay. Thank you. So this is similar to like the wire method, which returns the wire property or the function, right? So I did a wire function here, and the result, which contains two elements, which is data and errors. Okay. In the other wired get record or LDS, right? We used to get data and error, but the property in the GraphQL, we are getting data and errors. Okay. And similarly, once the data is retrieved and we verify that data is empty or not, and based on that, the similar way what we have queried in our GraphQL syntax, the result or the response is also written in the same way. As you can see, data is the parent one, and we queried it from UI API, query, and account. So which goes through all the levels which we have added here, and edges. So now edges is basically the list of list or the array of records where each node is present in that particular node attribute. Okay. Now I'm just mapping it so that I just wanted to reduce the number of object navigation. Hence, I'm using this structure. So once I map through this one, I will be getting a direct array of records. So let's directly go and verify how it looks here. Hmm. So I'm opening a debug console. Currently, we are in account graph. Okay, I put a debugger here. Hmm. As you can see, this wire method is trying to load the records. So right now, the records data is not written now. As you can see, the data is present. And now if we try to console it, the structure will look like this. Okay, let me do this way. So as you can see, the entire structure of the array is in the way that how we requested our, how we requested or designed our GraphQL query. The query contains, the response contains UI API query and the account object that we are querying, and all the edges, and edges is an array, and in the array, all the nodes, and each node has the requested fields. As you can see, we requested name, type, ID, and everything. So each of the field has its a value which we requested. Also, you can see the compound fields which we requested, and it has billing city and display value, label, and value. Billing country also has the respective value which is stored in the record. So this is how the structure of the returned GraphQL response. Now, what we are doing is, since the return structure is this much big, right? Like we have to name it to this many objects. Rather than if we can map it and make sure we point it to the correct node, right? So that is how I'm mapping it and assigning it into results. So once I mapped it here, it will be displayed. I mean, in the of results variable, I store this, and the same result variable I'm iterating in the HTML and displaying each of the value, account name, account type, and the last modified by name. So as you can see, once it is populated, it will be displayed onto the UI. As you can see, we iterated using template iteration here and displayed over like using Lightning card. And each of the node we are accessing via that field name dot value and type dot value and last modified by dot value. So like that, we can access other fields as well. Mm, so any questions over here? I'm good. This query is pretty straightforward, right? But now you might be wondering, right? Like if I go here, the total 13 accounts are there. But though we queried all the accounts without putting any limits in our JS, right? In our GraphQL query, it is returning only 10 records. So this is how the GraphQL is designed. If you not put any limit, by default, it will return the first page, which contain 10 records. because tomorrow, like if you're trying to use this GraphQL structure in your project, then you might be wondering like why it returns only this many records, even though the database contains a lot of other records for the which is satisfying the query filter criteria, right? So by default, it returns only the 10 first 10 records, and since we have not added any order by or any clause, right? It just randomly return the records. Let's try to add few things. I'll take you another example. This one second. Yeah. So let's try to query two different objects in a single GraphQL query. Okay. So this is our query look like. So we are going to query from account object, sorry, case object, and here we are trying to put a filter onto it. The query is like select account ID priority subject from case, where account ID in, and I'm doing a subquery again, which is select ID from account, where the name like United, uh, like you're using the, what do you call that operator, matching
Wildcard.
or the like of, sorry?
Wildcard.
Sorry, yes, wildcard operator. And here I'm comparing it with the industry, which is of energy, right? And also, as you can see, I'm trying to query the account as well. And while querying the account, I also query the related contacts, which is limiting to two. Okay. So now I'm querying, I'm requesting the GraphQL to return these many results in single query. But if you consider an ideal REST API scenario, right? Uh, we would not be able to execute in multiple queries. Let's go through this example. Um, in this query, we write the GraphQL the similar structure, wire method, and here UI from UI API, we are querying the account first, and its edges. Each record contains the following values like ID, name, and everything. And along with that, these are the additional fields apart from which I mentioned here also. Last modified by and everything. And if you see, while translating this SOQL query of querying the child records, right? So the translation look like this. We are going to query another object, but here we have to provide that relationship or the parent relationship API name, right? How it is related to what we call in our the child relationship API name. We're going to use that. So in this case, I'm querying the contacts from account. So that is the reason we put the relationship API name, and we are limiting it to two. And from this contacts, we are retrieving ID and name. So here, few things to note down, like we might get confused, writing, like having many curly braces. But once you get used to it, right, it would be much easier. All the fields which we are querying apart from ID, we put curly braces and it's, I mean, what are the query value that we are getting, which is value. And likewise, all the other compound fields also, or the relationship field also, we will put a query. And when we are doing a child or the children relationship query, which is also similar to what we write this parent query. So if it is parent query also, we can pass the required parameters using this, right? Like what is the where condition, what is the um, order by clause and everything, right? So here also the child query which we are doing, we can pass the similar item where condition order by clause. Um, then apart from that, one thing that differentiates here is mm, there's one parameter called upper bound. Okay, maybe I'll explain you that upper bound in the theory, but I'll not take it here now. It would be confusing for you. And all the fields that we query is exactly same, like from the edges, which is again a wrapper and node, and from that node, each node we are querying ID and the name field. And all the curly braces will close accordingly. So once this account query or the account query which closes, right, which is closing here, and we're going to put another object query here. As you can see, we are going to query a case uh, where where in the sense, so here is our where class, right, where account ID, and we are doing a sub query which is a kind of a semi-join, right? As you can see, this is how, I mean, if you consider, if you've not put any where clause, it would look like this, right? There are no there are no parameters to the queried object. So that is why I mean we put the parenthesis, and within the parenthesis we can pass where clause. Also, we can say that okay, I want only first two records or first n records, okay, and then on top of that I can put order by. Let's say I want order by case number. You have to specify the field as case number, whichever the field that is translated into a correct API name. And then we also have to specify how it is, right? Either in ascending order or descending order. So we need to specify like either ascending or descending. So this is how we specify. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so we do not need to put additional parentheses here. We can just specify either it is ascending or descending like this. And then the where clause which goes. So every where clause has, I mean, has again its own opening curly braces and closing curly braces. So the where clause, what we are doing is we are matching the case account ID, which we are going to query. So there are certain operators that we need to use when we are performing a join operator, which is like in operator that which it translated, right? In GraphQL, it is called INQ variable that you have used. Um, and again, all the query params or the respective query is translated into similar, like we are going to query the account object, and within the account, we have two criteria where name like United, I mean any other wild characters, and industry is equal to energy. So here, this is a semi-join operator, right? So we are trying to get the account ID, select ID from account, where name like United, I mean percentage, and industry equal to energy. So anywhere when you're putting a criteria which has and or like more than one filter criteria, right? So that JSON should contain and along with that, it is having an array of parents. Okay, so in this case, the AND operator having I mean is been validating with the name and industry, and this is the query which we are doing is on the account object, and the second parameter when we perform the in join query is like which is the return field that should be compared against the in operator. So that is where we have to provide which is the return field where ID equal to this is the return field which needs to be compared. And once this query I mean all the respective fields are written, the the node or the edge which is returned and which is similar to what we have seen now, and all the fields that we wanted to query. Here also you can add other relationship fields or any other fields that you would like to have, which from the case object you can access, or you can also query the child records, how we added like contacts here, right? From the case with whichever its child records, you can add it. Is this query, I mean, understood or is this confusing?
So Sudarshan, is or also a keyword like and?
Yes, yes. So here, if you want to put an additional, like let's say one more condition along with that, okay. Uh, let's say if you want one more condition for or, see, if you put or here and you put any conditions, right? Um, but this has to be again wrapped inside another either or and, correct?
Yes.
So now if you want to put another or, basically if you want name and name equal to this one, industry equal to this one, and let's say account type, okay, which is or, okay. Along with that, you will add one more condition called and account type equal to let's say direct or status equal to created, okay. Let's say this is one such query, okay. So now the or condition, you're wrapping it like this, right? I mean parenthesized, so that either of these conditions should match. Along with that, name and industry should always be matched, right? So the similar
Yes.
query is translated like this here. So we already put and we are going to add one more condition for or, okay? So this is how we start by putting a curly braces and or, and within the or, it is again an array, okay? Because we are going to pass multiple elements, right? Inside the array. So now first comparison that we are going to do account type, okay? So let's say account type colon. Then when we're performing an equal operation, we have to use the equality EQ. When you're performing the not equal, which is any, okay? Well, like when you're performing account type not equal to, so then you have to use any. When you're performing equal to, that you have to use EQ. And whatever the criteria that we set, okay, let's say this is a direct, okay, direct. And then there is another condition that we've added, status equal to create. This is a status field, and the operation that we are going equal to create. So now, while specifying here, we should specify the correct API name, which is underscore C, or if you're using managed package, then it is prefixed with the managed package namespace. So likewise, I mean, you just nest the required fields according to the criteria. Is this clear?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And one
Yeah.
last thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one last thing. Most common things we do, right? We query a list of accounts and then do a query on the records that are returned in the previous list, right? Like find in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do
Mm-hmm.
that here?
So that is what like we are doing now actually. We queried
Oh, okay.
the
Yes, yes, yes.
required account,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, from that required accounts, which is matching this criteria, uh, we we want to query the case object.
Oh, this is not the first query. This is the sub query. Oh my God.
Yes, yeah. So if you see here, we want the case records, okay. But case records whose account ID is
Is the
matching
one?
with,
Yeah.
yeah, the find in that what we are doing now. Usually, like either we can do this query or we can perform two separate queries. First,
Mm-hmm.
we query the accounts and put the account IDs, and then
Mm-hmm.
do the query on case where account ID matching this account ID, right? Or the given account ID.
Yes. Yes.
This is the other way that we are doing now. Like rather than doing two separate queries,
Mm.
um, we are doing it in only like one query, but utilizing two SQL queries.
Yes. So in like this is absolutely clear. But suppose in
Mhm.
case we didn't want to do this, like instead of this in this after in open braces and then this
Mhm.
query, instead of that, if you wanted to pass the IDs, is that possible? Or
Mhm. Yes, it is possible. So I will come to that example
okay, okay,
post this.
okay,
I will tell you how to do that also.
sure.
So this is how, I mean, we put and or criteria, okay? And the operators like or operators are equal for comparing equality. And we can also put, if you have an array of parameters, let's say now I want to check the status, okay? Along with that, consider this is my status, and status has multiple values, okay? So then how we can compare is basically we use in operator and we pass the required status in the array again, okay? Let's say created or updated, so that this is how we can match the pick list values um, along with, like, instead of rather than matching one value, you can match a list of values as well. Um, got it? Confusing. Okay. So, I mean, we put these conditions and everything. Let's go back to the example.
So sorry,
And,
Sudarshan, sorry to interrupt. Can you please
mhm,
go up?
mhm,
Can you please scroll up?
mhm,
Can we scroll up?
mhm.
To the simple query, SOQL query, not this complex GraphQL.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah,
this one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So so row 18.
Mm-hmm.
So row 18 is where the subquery for account ID ends, right? And then
A
like in,
subquery. Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is a query for account, right? Like the where
Mm-hmm.
account ID in, right? And then after that,
Yes, yes.
if you put comma, we can add
Mm-hmm.
one more. We can add one more parameter for the case, right? So
Yes, yes, and case, yeah.
we'll just write comma. We can and yeah, yeah, and from
Yeah.
where account ID in and
Mm. Yes.
created date last 90 days, right? We can do that, right?
Yeah, created days,
Then colon
created date,
colon.
and last 90 days, whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Last
Mm.
underscore n days is 90,
Mm.
right? So we
Mm.
can do that, right?
Mm. Yes, yes,
So
yeah.
so now if we do this, then how do we add
Mm.
change the query
Yeah,
in the
so this basically, now we have where condition here, right?
hmm, hmm,
This is for account ID where condition,
hmm,
right? Now what we have to do is, this we are comparing only account ID now.
hmm,
Along with that, we have to first put and, okay? And then in that, first is our account ID comparison, and then second one is our created date comparison. Created date colon EQ colon or greater than GT. There are list of operators
hmm,
which we can utilize and its values. Okay, let's say greater than last 90 days. But
hmm,
I'm not sure 100% like what exactly that value we have to put, because I always refer the documentation
hmm,
when it comes to this date functions.
hmm, hmm. No, no, this is an example. We
Similar.
can take some
Yeah,
other
yeah,
date.
this is an example.
Some simple one we'll take.
Like last 90 days, right?
Hmm,
90
hmm,
days.
hmm,
Hmm. So now what we did was, see, we added an AND condition here
hmm,
along with the account ID, correct?
hmm,
Similarly, what we did was previously we do not had AND condition here, okay? Our
hmm,
previous query was where condition was like this empty, okay? Consider I removed this one. This was our previous query for account ID, right?
hmm,
Inside the where clause, I just put only one condition called, I mean, one condition variable to verify, which is account ID.
hmm,
And now post this, we've added additional AND condition. This is similar to how we did the AND operator, right?
hmm,
Inside the where clause, first we have to add AND operators, and then it takes a array of conditions, right? Our first condition was created date in or less than or greater than and last end day colon 90, and then and our and condition also I mean contains this one, right?
hmm,
And we put this one here with the additional curly braces, so that now all this and is I mean composed of created date and our account ID in, which is this query. Now let's say if you use in place of and or, right?
hmm,
It is or here.
hmm.
So this is how we translate.
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry,
Yeah, thank you so much.
is it confusing? Maybe I mean when we try it, you will have a better idea, I think.
Yeah, this is good. Thank you. Sudarshan, is there a page where we can like we have the Salesforce documentation, right? We can go and see the operators.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can. I mean, I'll navigate you to that also.
Okay. Thank
Yeah. So this is, I'll navigate to that also. Just one second. So now let's go back to this example, and we just try to query multiple objects in one single GraphQL. Let's see how this data return, right? I will utilize the same example, and I'll refresh this page. This component is account with contacts and cases. So as you can see now, the debugger stopped at this query result. If I think this is the initial one, it will not get any result. So now our query has resulted. Let me print this data. So what we queried here is, let me show you. Hmm. So we are querying for the two different objects, and our response is, I mean, navigating through all the nodes which we pass through UI API query, and it contains two object query which we have made, and one is on the account, one is on the cases. And account, it returned 10 accounts. In the account, we have not put any criteria, as you can see. And as I told, it initially returns the first page or the 10 by default. So those 10 accounts are returned, and each of the node, as you can see here, the query requested fields which we have, billing address, contact, slash modified by type and name, everything is added here. Um, it is like total 10 accounts. And then, as you can see, there is one more node is also available, which is cases. And each here also there are there are n cases present. But if we execute the same query here, so there are like 11 rows, okay, basically with the same name. As by default, it is going to return first 10 rows, and it will also give you the cursor to navigate to the next page of the um, what do you call a result set. Uh, I'll tell you about how cursor and everything in the next example. And each node which is returned contains the queried field, which is account ID, priority, and a subject. So this is what we queried in our return response. As you can see, ID, account ID, priority, and subject. So now all the results which is returned, what we are just flattening it so that it is easy for us to access in the UI, which is a similar functionality. We navigated through all the object nodes, and we just flattened so that each record is present in the array, and it will be directly displayed onto the UI. As you can see, I mean, we are doing some iterations here to display the account name, and here also I'm doing another iteration. As you can see, the contact for each account, we have a contact which is written right in this node. If you see, I queried the contact as well. You see there are two contacts, and even the contact also follow the same node structure. As you can see, we have limited to two contacts. For some account, there is only one contact, because if the number of contacts are like only one, then it will return only one. Otherwise, at the max, it will return two contacts. And this is the structure. Likewise, now when we go to the next screen, it just flatten it, as you can see. and displays onto the UI here. As you can see here, the first 10 accounts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in some accounts, if you can see, there are two contacts present. Two contacts are displayed. In some accounts, only like one contact is present. We limit it to two, hence it is returning two contacts at the max. And below that, the cases which are returned. As you can see, the case subject and case priority we're going to display. This is, I mean, right now we did a rudimentary example of like the representation of how we display on the screen. But using this query, we do not need to go back to Apex and perform all of our logic in the Apex to retrieve the same details. So this made us like, I mean, remove the kind of dependency from Apex for certain things right now. Any questions?
Just
In this
one question,
example?
Sudarshan, for this
Yes, yes.
inner, right? That one, that case, like that account and inside that you were querying contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Related. So
Mm-hmm.
how many degrees I think you said like 3 or 4 we can go, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. That is, I mean, I've tried three. Um, Up to that level, you can go
So
ahead.
up to three.
Uh,
Okay, okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But max thing, I've not got a chance to verify. Maybe, I mean, as an example, you can also try it. We can,
Yeah, I understand.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought I missed it. You already said. Okay, I understand.
No, no, no worries. That is fine. Yeah. Um, so shall we go to another example?
Yes.
Okay. I think this is pretty straightforward. But let me add something to it. Mm, So this is we're using just an order by clause actually. We will try this. So here this is a component, but I queried only for 5 records without any order. Let me add an order by clause which is order by first name and limit to first 5 records. The rest of the query is same. See, one another thing is that if we are not passing any parameter, we do not need to I mean, call it or invoke it as a method here, which is like uh, which is near the object, right? We put all the method structure and pass all the parameters, right? So first order, I mean, first is the like first number of records, which is limiting, and then order by, then we will add where clause or the page size or the cursor and everything, right? So this, if you're not passing anything, we can omit this parenthesis itself. Okay. Now let's consider this another example of which is pretty straightforward, but we just order by first name in this case. The query is a query on the contact object, and we query first name, last name, and email. Okay. We deploy this. This sometimes in I think developer org it might take some time to query or put a refresh actually.
Sudarshan, is that comma needed after first five? There is a comma.
Yes, this is needed because we are passing it as a parameter
Okay, okay.
here, yeah, to this function. Sorry, I don't think order by is needed. It's just order. Order by was here actually.
Yeah.
Let me remove some of the components. As you can see now, it is reflecting because it takes some time to reflect when we deploy it in this dev work. So now the same query which we ran now, which is order by first name. Let's take this example. We can see from the developer console as well. ID, comma, name. As you can see, and Yatur, Ashley, Avi, Barbara, the same result which is returned from the GraphQL. So this is how we can put order by. Any questions over here? Sorry.
Good.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to another example, which is like we saw a few examples, but all the examples that we saw right now, it's loading one record. I mean, first page record, right? What if it is has more than? I mean, if you want to load a paginated way. So the structure before going to this example, I'll take you through some of the theories actually. So each structure of a record query, what we saw, right? It contains or it is in this format, okay? Let's say if you take an example of an account object, let's say any custom object, um, it is like you have to specify the object name, and then there are a few parameters which we are going to pass. So one is that we already saw the parameter first, which specifies the number of result that is returned. Then we also saw order by if you want to perform any order by operation according to that. And then we saw only these and the where clause. So which is where we specify the conditions to implement, right? These, one second. Yeah. So order by we saw, and we saw where clause, and we also saw first. So then there are other few parameters which it is expecting. It is not always mandatory. And the parameter called after, okay. So this is basically a string, but this is a query cursor which is used to navigate through the paginated result sets. What we saw till now is always returning a default 10 default number of records, which is 10. But what if my result set, which is going to return, is more than 10 or more than let's say more than the per page size, right? So then we have to use the after parameter, saying after this particular point, whatever the result, and the next page, return it back to me. Um, that is where the after parameter specifies. And scope is basically specifies the owner. Like if you have seen that list view, right? We saw, or the reports. Um, mm, there is an option to filter the records, right? Like my accounts or my team's accounts. So that is where the scope. If that kind of view um, has been what we saw in reports, that kind of view also can be utilized in a query with the scope variable. Okay, we often, not oftenly use this parameter. Then the upper bound. Okay, so this is where when you want to query the number of records, maximum number of records at one stretch. That is where you specify upper bound parameter. It has to be like 200 to 2000 if you're like minimum query records it contains. And whatever the result that contains, result that is returned from the query, right? What we just saw, the results here. Let me, okay. So the result contains these sections, right? All of this result.query.ui API, which will map to this object navigation. Each result, what we call it as record connection. Okay, so that record connection has like 4 elements or 4 objects. So one is edges, which contains the records, and the one is the page info, which contains the page information. Right now, we have not added these elements to our query. If you see here, we have not added the page info detail, which means like we have not requested to have these details in a response. Hence, it is not retrieved. And then total count, which is basically the number of records that are queried. Okay, and the page result count, which is like latestly added, the number of records that is available in per page results, okay, which is similar to like what we requested for. So this is the record connection. When I say record connection, like it's composed of edges in the sense what we have expecting in our result output. Since we have not added the page info in our result output, that is not returned in our previous examples. The page info contains one is cursor. The cursor says like does the result set as any other next set of records, or if I request for, let's say, 1000 records and I am in between 500, and the page info when I'm querying 510th record, right? The page info says, does it has a previous page? Does it has a next page? And what is the next page? If it has a next page, what is the next page cursor, like that? Okay. And the total and the page count is pretty straightforward. And whatever the record edge that is returned, it contains two informations. Okay, one is the node, which is the record itself, and other one is the cursor. Okay, cursor in the sense each node has a cursor value, right, or a unique reference to that record when the record is returned via GraphQL query. So that is what we call it as cursor, okay? And as I was discussing, page info contains these many elements, which is has a next page or has a previous page, or what is the start cursor and what is the end cursor. Okay. So these two informations are helpful when we navigate between the result sets, right? Like if it is the result set has a multiple pages, then we navigate between that. That is helpful, okay? Then I think, yeah, this one we've already saw with an example, how we query the child relationships. But the only thing which is not available in the child relationship is one thing I've written, I think. No, the upper bound which is specified here, right? If you take example of this one, the parent query that we perform, it has an upper bound, but the child relationship does. I mean, child relationship queries which we perform does not have an upper bound. This is about like the pagination theory part. We'll just quickly jump to an example of how it will be. So, okay, before going to that, any questions on this?
Good.
Okay. So we for this example, we use a simple query on contact records again. And if you notice in all of our examples, we have not expected any parameter to be passed in the query, right? We wrote like just query the method name itself. We've not expected any parameters or runtime parameter when we are querying it. And if you look at this example also, we just wrote like this, but we've not expected any runtime parameter. Let's say if we want to pass a runtime parameter, how we can utilize? So the same query, which we're going to write a GraphQL, right? Since in our previous examples, we did not had any runtime parameter, our query was looking like this, where a plain query, but there is no method structure and everything. Now in this example, we take two runtime parameters, okay? Which is what is the after string and what is my page size look like, okay? So here, whenever we expect a parameter, right? The parameter is declared with the dollar symbol, and we have to specify the type. For string, it is pretty. I mean, string type, and for integer, you have to write in the int type. For boolean, you have to write type boolean. I mean, you have to write boolean. Likewise, you can pass array also or pick list type values also. I'll share you the link of the entire documentation which Salesforce has provided. So that contains a vast variety of examples as well. To start off with, we will see this example. In this example, we need two parameters because we are doing a pagination now. Okay. So after, which is after cursor, we need, and what is the page size? So I declared a constant variable. I'm doing a page size of 5. Okay. And the query is contact record. And in the contact record, what we saw are structure, right? The record query structure. We have after, first, order by, and everything. I use um, after the given cursor, and first, in the sense, first n number of records, which is basically when you're doing an initial query, you do not have any after, right? Which means the after cursor or the given cursor is null. When we specify the page size as 5, so at a particular point, like initially in the sense when you do a first query, whatever the query result, it starts from the first record, which is map which is filtered by the filter criteria. So in our case, we do not have any filter criteria, like we have not added any where clause here, not to make much complicated right now with this example. We have not added any filter criteria with the where clause and everything. But if we have added filter criteria, what are all the records that is matching? From that, it takes first 5 records. Since since it is a first call, we are going to pass for the first time this parameter is empty, okay? And then we are expecting to have, the response has ID, name, email, and account name as well, okay? And account type. So if you can see, in the each node end, we are expecting a cursor, okay? So this is where it will help us to identify what is the next page, okay? And after the edge, right, we are going to expect or how many number of records, which is total count, and a page info, which is end cursor or an additional start cursor. I have not added start cursor, hence it will not return start cursor. And does it has a next page? Does it has a previous page? So this is how, sorry, this is how the paginated query look like, okay? And you can add all other informations or the fields and the filters and everything. And the query parameters that we are going to pass is basically like after and the page size. So as you can see, I have written the query here. You can use a getter of a getter method, or you can also directly write the query here itself, which is similar to have a getter method. And the variables, you can see here, the variables I put it in a getter method so that we can have both the examples of how it is. And this is basically why did we do it? Because we are trying to navigate to the different pages, right? So which is we want a variable to be tracked. So for a wire method, it has to be reactive or a dynamic, right? What we do, we utilize that variable with a dollar symbol. So that is why I use a getter method. And every time when the after cursor has changed, right? This query contact query params will be reactive, and it will update it accordingly. And here I'm passing only 2 parameters, and the parameters is in the format of key and value pair, okay? But here if you see, notice I have 2 parameters in this query, which is after and page size. Here after one key is there, uh, I I will populate either with after or with the null, okay? When I say either means if after has a value, it will be assigned with the whatever the value, actual value. If it does not has a value, then it will be assigned with the null. So this is why this is done, because in the initial or the first time that we call using wire method, right, that after does not have a value, hence it is passed as null, okay? And for the page size, I just directly return the page size. Basically, I mean, we can also write like this, right? Which is similar to the key value pair. We can also use a shorthand operator. I mean, shorthand writing, right? If the variable or the key is same as the variable that we are utilizing, then we can directly write the variable as it is. Is this clear or is this not clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now we are utilizing the GraphQL method, and as you can see, the GraphQL method has two variables. I mean two variables, which is two properties. Okay, which takes as a parameter. One is query and one is variable. Till now, all of our example, we just leveraged only query. We have not passed any variable. But in this example, we're going to start passing a variable as well. A variable is again, and as I said, it is a key value, or it is an object which is in the format of key and a value. And query is our GraphQL query. I place our GraphQL query here, and whatever the records that is returned, we are going to process in this way. Once the paginated result comes, right? What I will do is my data contains data.ui.query.contact, which is basically through this structure UI API and query and contact. That is what it is receiving. After the contact, what we saw is it has after the contact instance, after the record object type, right? It will return this edges and page info and total count. So I'm accessing the total count from that object, and I'm accessing the page info from that object, and I'm also accessing this data which is in each node. And if any errors, like it will print. And either of the case, like if data or the error, we are going to stop the spinner. Right now, I've not utilized any spinner here, but this is just an example of like how we can stop a spinner when you want to load or when you added the spinner during the loading. Now let's look our HTML actually. So HTML contains iteration of all contacts and contact.id, which is a key for the iteration, and we're going to display contact first name, last name, email, account. Okay, let's quickly go through this example. All contacts, yeah. Now, the first set of results are returned. As you can see, okay, let me clear this. The structure of the return data contains UI API query, and on the contact object, it has edges, one and 5 records. Sorry, this is a different one. Sorry, my bad. Here we are getting result. Sorry, okay. I just close this debugger. We will not get confused. As you can see here, um, the contact contains two different elements now. There is, sorry, three different elements because we opted or we choose to query for edges, total contacts, and page info. This is the structure of the record connection. So we have edges, page info, total count, because since we have not requested the page result count, it has not returned the page result count. Okay. And in the edges, it contains 5 records, and in each node, it has a node and a cursor. As you can see, each node has a node, a contact record, and we also requested for its cursor. Okay. So that is why it returned like 5 different records along with its cursor. Okay. And now if you see, the other thing is that it returned page info and a total record count. So there are like there are 20 records in the 20 contact records, and our page info says this is the first page because has previous page is returned as false, and has the next page is written as true, and end cursor is the last record cursor that it is returned, as you can see. So now let's go to this all contacts. Um, so now our all contacts should be populated with the value. All contact has 5 nodes now. Each of the node has name, account ID, account name, and value, email as well, which is going to display here. As you can see, there are 220 records, but I just there is some field is missing on the UI. Contact as account.name.value. Got it, yeah. I'll display this 1 second.
Sudarshan, I think you didn't get first name and last name. You got name directly.
Oh yes, yeah, correct. Sorry, I was correct. True. Thank you.
Seems like when we change the query, it takes some time, right?
Yeah, because on that day also after showing all the records till the
Yeah,
time we debug.
yeah.
This behavior is only I think developer org because when we are using in our sandbox org, it is instant.
Mm.
It will take few minutes, I think.
Yeah. So one question, Sudarshan, in
Mm.
the meantime.
Yeah,
So cursor,
yeah.
basically, can we say it's like an unique identifier for each node?
Yes, it is a unique identifier which is generated at the runtime when we are retrieving.
Okay.
Mm. I mean, for those set of records, it is generated.
So it is not using ID, it's generating one more unique identifier.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Till the time loads, I think we need to wait for a few minutes. Uh, in the meantime, I will go through the documentation part actually. Uh, Salesforce. Mm, On this one second, I'll show you the exact URL. Mm, Yeah. So here, if you see in this URL, from this URL, you can see a lot of the query examples that we are doing. This is like initial record type connection or record type, and the query examples we just took, no account or contact. That can be, I mean, multiple objects and everything. And then how do we do the filters? So for the filters, there are operators, right? The operators are listed here: equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, like, in operator, and what are the field types, all of these being listed here. Um, and Boolean operators also, like there are different, and, or, how we can perform not, everything has been listed with this example. Maybe this would more more helpful, like in our day-to-day work, like if we are stuck anywhere. Mm, then this is how, like the child or the child to parent relation query that we are going to perform. If we if you take this example, like select ID, name from account, but your name from contact, but our field filter criteria contains a criteria on the account. Uh, it is similar to, like we put a where clause instead of the instead of the contact field. We have to navigate to the account using the respective API name. I mean relationship API name, right? Say, let's say for custom object, it is underscore r dot how we write, right? Similarly, this is for standard object, and that is why it is mentioned only direct account. But if it is, let's say, if you have created a custom field on a custom object, which now that field has a underscore c as a field API name, but when you refer to a relationship, it will become underscore r, right? So that is where, like, you have to update this with underscore r. Then like polymorphic relationship fields, how we can use, and semi-filter joins. All of them, I think it is most of like been used here. Can I share the link here in this chat? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, we'll lose the link when the session closes, right? If you can add it to the notes, then it will be there
Okay,
forever.
yeah, that I can add. Yeah, sure. I'll add it to the notes. Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. Yeah. Let's see if this is loaded now. Still not loaded. Mm, yeah. Now I'll go back here. No, it's not coming.
Coming here.
It is coming here, but it is not coming there.
Some caching issue.
Some caching issue. Yeah. Okay, now it started. So here it displayed now first 5 records. I mean that was the initial query. So now I will show you when we click what happens when we click on next, right? So for our handler, like on handle next, as you can see, I have added a debugger a breakpoint. As soon as you click on next, it checks for end cursor. Okay. So now in our case, the end cursor is this one, and it updates the reactive property, which is the query params. And once this is updated, now it tries to retrieve 5 more records. So now as you can see, this dot after is populated, and while returning this param from the query parameter, so the query parameter will look like this now. 1 second. So as you can see, our query parameter look like this. After this cursor, and I want the page size, next 5 records. As soon as this hits, it goes and it gets the next 5 records. And there are total record count and everything we have requested. Now the page info is updated with another cursor. As you can see, UI info and query, and the next 5 records are returned. And post after this cursor, there is another, this is our last cursor which we have queried. And in the page info, this is the end cursor has been responded. And it has a next page, also it has a previous page also. When we request for a previous page, it goes back to the next, previous 5 records. As you can see, there are total 20 records. Now I will add it here, and it navigates. As you can see now, 5 more records are added to this query. And let me request directly like 5 more records now. And now 5 more records are added, and 5 more records are added. Post this one, there are no records. So now has next page is returned empty, so we disabled this button now. This is how we can do the pagination on the fly. So which which almost like removes the dependency of Apex for us actually. Any questions?
Sudarshan, one
On this?
question. So if you want to
Yeah.
implement previous, so you in that case also we need to pass end cursor or the start cursor.
No, start cursor actually, like
Okay.
because right now we are going proceed with the forward direction, right? We have to go backward direction basically. Uh, so when we provide the start cursor, let's say these 5 records are returned, right? Then from the start cursor, we have to go backwards actually.
Okay.
Because
Got it.
yeah. I think if so let's take a previous button as a what do you say example, and you guys can try it on your own, right? Like Anirudh or Akash, Chayal,
Yeah.
Abhishek, yeah, Abhilash, sorry. So this way, like we can introduce a pagination as well. Okay. Any questions over here?
No, I think that was a really good example actually.
Thank you. Like we will try. This is for a record with the one object pagination we have tried. However, there is, let's say, if you are trying to query the children objects as well, right? Like for account, you want to query the contacts with the pagination. So when you do the contact subquery in this example, what we saw, not this one, account and contact, yeah. As you can see here, right? This is the contact subquery we were doing. Here also, the subquery also will return by default 10 records, okay, if we have not specified the parameters first. For this also, we should be doing a pagination for if you wanted to load more than 10 records in the children as well.
So like in one go, we cannot get more than 10 records, is it? Even if we specify, like
Yes.
say 100,
Yes,
first 100,
yes,
it won't return
yeah.
100.
It won't return. But you can get 100 records provided you have to pass the upper bound between 200 to 2000.
Okay.
That is only for the parent query.
Hmm.
Let me go through this one actually. We saw this one, right? Upper bound. There's a parameter called upper bound, right? So
Yeah.
if we specify upper bound, you can get like more than 100 records, but the value you should specify is basically between 200 to 2000.
Okay.
Instead of first parameter, we have to pass for upper bound. But this upper bound parameter is only available for the parent, not the child one. Okay. I think as an example or as an assignment, like can you guys try the children one? Like post this class, I will post an example of the the pagination of child as well. We can also compare that with your example so that if you have any doubts or questions, we can connect back. How it is, which way?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, what we've covered today is about like how we can utilize GraphQL in our day-to-day like LWC data query requirements, most of the requirements. And for all the other operation, I mean, what do you call the filters or of order results or any field operators, we can refer this guide actually. This would really help, sir. It contains a precise example as well.
Yeah. So, Darshan, what do you recommend? Like
Mm.
when we build any component, so wherever we need to use get data, just use GraphQL, and whenever we want to do perform DML, then use Apex, right? So we generally don't need LDS at all, right?
Uh, yes, LDS, like you can utilize, like if you're performing an update to a single record, that is at that point you can utilize LDS. But if you are performing multiple record DML, it is preferred to right now preferred to have Apex itself. And for retrieving the data, as I think like we can utilize the GraphQL in much more efficient way. So that we, I mean, remove the dependency of Apex in LWC if we are only retrieving and showcasing it. And we can also like do that data manipulations here, right? Or data transformation using JS as well. The same transformation which is available in Apex.